Welcome back to the Fanspeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown, the strategy edition of Sibling Showdown. That's right. Every week we have 4 to 5 live drafts here on the Fanspeak Network, but we also like to do strategy shows. And Steve and I like to talk weekly about different strategies that we like to incorporate in these live drafts. And today we are talking about Best Ball Overlay. They are the exclusive tools partner of Fanspeak and the tool that we are using to help build out very effective or efficient portfolios, hopefully give us an edge. So I know you have it, Steve. I've got it. How are you doing with all the new drafts that Underdog is released? And your early thoughts on Best Ball Overlay.
Yeah, no, haven't gotten a chance to use it yet on any fast drafts. We just did one stream together with it. Yeah. But it's fun. It's a great tool, both offsite and onsite on Underdog. And when you can look, and we'll go over all that in a second. Yeah. But yeah, Underdog just released a bunch of drafts. So ones I'm going to do slow, some you have to do fast. So it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, Best Ball Overlay will help with both of that. Check out bestballoverlay.com. Use code FANSPEAK for 33% off or $10 off a month. It makes it from $30 a month to $20, just $20 a month. That's less than a BBM that's helping you to give you an edge and help you build out the most efficient portfolios possible. And we're going to break that down by waste no time. We're going to pull it right over here, Steve, and show you what you get when you sign up for Best Ball Overlay. So You'll see that the overlay is the first thing, and that's basically downloading the extension and uploading, I believe, through Underdog to allow for the extension to show in your live drafts or on your finished drafts to show the stacks and correlations, basically. And not only does it show stacks and correlations, but it also shows of the playoff correlations or the potential stacks you're looking at. It's showing team totals, games in a dome, those kind of things that are really, helpful to consider, especially as you're going through a fast draft. So we'll be pulling up Underdog later, but be sure to check out our most recent Sibling Showdown live draft, where it was the first time that Steve and I had used it in a stream draft. And that was really fun because it made it a lot easier to say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I only had 9% Mike Evans or 4% Noah Fan. I love these guys. I need more of them. Or, oh, wow, I've taken this guy a lot with, our Bijan. Let's take somebody else, stuff like that. Because we started Bijan Robinson at the 6th spot. So, those kind of things are just really just the things that I didn't do well enough last year is the combinations. We'll get to that in a minute. But the overlay itself really helps those decisions, especially in fast drafts. You want to use that 15-second clock, 30-second clock, and in slow drafts. It's helping you just make those decisions in stacking, correlation, games, again, that have good playoff scenarios. So that's the overlay part. The rankings part is what it says, is that it allows you to build out your own rankings and does it in a very easy and efficient way that you can see how much you're bringing a guy below or above the current ADP. So that's great. So I love the rankings part itself. And you can do it for, this isn't just, if you want to continue to use it beyond best ball season, I highly recommend it. I know we'll be using it beyond best ball season. Can be used for battle royale and everything. So you could adjust weekly rankings for battle royale when you get into the in season. Obviously you can constantly edit your rankings. Rankings are going to be much more fluid here in a couple of weeks once training camps start. So you can upload those to Underdog then. And then finally, you have the teams. And this might be my favorite part of it, actually, is you upload your Underdog exposure. So I want to do that quite often so I can stay on top of it. And uploading your Underdog exposure allows you to analyze your team exposures and combinations. So yeah, on Underdog, you can see your total exposure, but you don't get to see combinations like you can here. And they're soon going to have graphs and even more data to it. So I'm going to bring that over first, Steve, before we go to Underdog. And we can take a look at my combinations and exposures, which is always fun. So let me bring over fantasy teams. We did this quickly on the live draft that we did, but we'll spend a little more time. And then we also have, I have Pat from Fantasy Dog Pound. This is his and his team's tool, bestballoverlay.com. And Pat will be joining me 8:30 p.m. Friday on Friends of Best Ball to talk more about Best Ball Overlay, and we'll do a live draft using that, of course. So as you can see on the fantasy teams part, I have 74 completed drafts. Now I have many drafts in the works. I plan to do many this week. My goal is to do 2, and this is of, I used to call them traditional drafts, but this is not like weekly winners or super flex or eliminator or those sprint, those kind of things. So my goal is to do 200 total of the, I call them traditional drafts. And so I'm trying to do at least 100 BBMs and then 100 of like they just released a bunch more Pug and Hound Dog, and I'm finishing a bunch of slow pit bulls, and I did the Dalmatian I really liked, and I want to do about 200 of those, so I'm pacing pretty well. I should have about 85 done by the end of this week with live drafts and slow drafts that are currently going. Actually, more now that they released these great tournaments. More like 95. But anyways, I have 74 completed teams. And so you look at your completed teams, and if you're just looking at the teams portion, as you can see, graphs are coming soon, but you can scroll down and kind of just get a kind of image of the teams. And if you hit the drop down menu, then you can see the whole teams, but you can kind of see what it's anchored by. So, this one's anchored by, it's a double anchor running back, a 3-5-8-2, but the, top is anchored by Joe Burrow, Kyron Williams, Jamar Chase, Trey McBride. You pull it down and you can get a picture of the whole team. It shows your CLV. It shows the type of build. It shows what it's anchored by at each position. So I love that. And again, I said this on the other show, I put my money where my mouth is. I talk about why I like 3 quarterbacks. It's probably a broken record, but both Steve and I lean heavily into 3 quarterback builds for several reasons, especially in the bigger tournaments, but really in all, protect injuries, protect floor weeks, but give you 3 stacks to get through playoffs. So as you can see, I don't just talk about it, I do it. It's a lot, all 3 quarterback teams basically, and different builds. 3-5-7-3 is a common one for me. 3-6-7-2, 3-5-8-2. I do a couple 3-6-6-3. So, and it shows like double anchor, 0 RB, hero RB, elite quarterback, that kind of stuff. So that's really cool to just get like the picture. But what's even better is the exposure. And obviously you can see your exposures on Underdog, sure, but you see them here. And what is the key here is you click from all tournaments to combinations, and then you can add players. So a big thing for me is the guys at the turn. What am I doing in my Christian McCaffrey builds? I have 6 Christian McCaffrey teams through 74 completed drafts. So as you can see in the combinations, it's 100% Christian McCaffrey. Who do I have with Christian McCaffrey? Well, 67%, 66% Tyler Lockett, 50% Mike Evans, because that's obviously a common player that comes up at the turn. Obviously, I paired him with Baker Mayfield, and then Keon Coleman, Brandon Cooks. These might be guys that I'd be like, I need to pump the brakes on them. They're a little higher up. The guys later, like a Jatavion Sanders, I don't worry as much about. That's someone I'm high on in the last couple of rounds. But it's interesting to kind of see, who you have half your Christian McCaffrey teams with, and then what I like, and then you can, of course, break it down like, okay, when I'm doing Christian McCaffrey teams, who are the other running backs I'm taking most with them? Yeah. I have, the 33% of my 6 teams are James Conner, Eckler, and Ty Chandler. And then the rest are, I guess, would probably just be 1. So yeah, that's really interesting because then you can break it out by position. And then, of course, you can then not just break out the players, but you can break out, like, build out a stack to see how you're building a stack. We did this on stream, but one of my favorite stacks is Dak CD Lamb. Okay, so you have combinations, 100% Dak CD Lamb. Who am I putting with Dak CD Lamb? Well, some late round tight ends in Conklin and Jatavion Sanders when I'm not doing Jake Ferguson, which I do have 28% in Dak CD Lamb stacks. And then you can see I have 42% Ty Chandler, 42% Kyron Williams. That's an early pick. That might be someone I might want to pump the brakes on a little bit in my Dak stacks because if Kyron Williams went down, I don't want like a 3rd round guy to tank my Dak team. So because stuff like that is something I want to be cautious and cognizant of. Right now I have 7 Dak CD stacks. So what do you think about that feature as we're talking through, and any other thing you want to see on my teams too?
This is one of my favorite parts of this. The able not only to see the combos, but then also to actually see those teams. And you can see it's a, the 3-6-6-3, the 3-5-7-3. So you can see each one. And then especially as we get into the season and, we can look and we're like, ooh, my DAC teams, let's say you end up with 30 of them, and 15 of them are 3-5-7-3. You're like, oh, maybe I should do, a couple more that are a little different type of build, just a build structure difference.
Yeah. Yeah, because look, it'll show you, 3, 5, 17,
Yeah.
3 if it's a zero RB, 3, 5, 7, 3 if it's a double anchor. That's very
Yeah.
different. Hopefully I made up for my receivers in this one. Yeah, they
Yeah,
still screwed.
exactly.
But yeah. Um, so yeah, no, I think that's a really good point as the season wears on, especially with the stacks that you love most. Make
Yeah.
sure you're doing the builds that you want, make sure you're getting the player exposures you want. We talk about that a lot. Diversify your player portfolio, but also diversify your build portfolio. We don't know what type of build is going to work. Is it going to be anchor RB? Is it going to be zero RB? Is it going to be double anchor RB? Is it going to be elite tight end? We don't know. We don't know. Nobody,
Yeah.
no analyst could sit here and say they know. We do. There's
And
no way to know. So,
and the other thing with it is like when we talk about like bringbacks for week 17,
mhm.
like just take Lamb out for a second. Um,
Yep, which is easy. Yep.
and then let's look at what Philly players you have, like how much
You want me
Saquon
to type
or
type in Saquon and
yeah,
see?
yeah. Can you do? I can't remember if you can do by team or not. I don't know if you can, but so
So
there's
yeah, this
there's
just
three
shows.
teams.
Yeah. So and then like in a
And,
DAC, like Devonta Smith is the common
yeah,
one because obviously
yeah.
AJ Brown's not making it back to you. So Dak, Devonta Smith.
So you have two teams, yeah.
Yeah, two teams. And on all of those teams, you can see I have Lamb and Elliott.
And
Um,
Rodgers. So
but
I
I
mean
also
that's
have
a
a Roger. I also have Rogers Conklin stacked on both
so
those
it's like the
teams.
next time that happens, you definitely don't want to have Rodgers because that's not even part of that stack. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
that this is where it becomes very interesting to do that. And
Yeah,
this is
and you
just
can
one
even build
example.
out a full build. Like say you want to see Dak, CD, and how many Jake Ferguson teams do I have? How many do I have of those three built out? I have two. And on those two, I have Tyler Conklin on both. And then, then it just shows. But I mean,
Yeah,
once you get further through the season and more, and again, this is going to help me doing just like 200 of the traditional drafts. But for someone who's doing several hundred, or 1,000 plus, like this is really going to help you because there's
yeah,
no way you could manage in your head or pen to paper the kind of things that this is doing to show you the combinations. Because again, we always hammer diversify your player portfolio, but also diversify your strategy portfolio and do it within, like, I think by mid-August, I'm going to want to say, okay, these are my favorite, anchor RBs. And I want to make sure I have different builds around those. These are my favorite, top receivers. I want to have different builds around those. These are my favorite quarterback stacks. And I want to have different builds around those. These are my favorite tight ends. I want to have different, and so on and so forth. You get it. But I just want to make sure I'm doing different. I don't want to make sure I'm doing this. I think last year I too often did the same thing with the
yeah.
guys I like the most, basically.
So can you clear out all the players
Sure.
and go to just total exposure
Yeah,
real
easy.
quick?
Yeah.
And go to a running back or receiver, like somebody good, like Derrick Henry.
Oh yeah.
Type him in.
Which I have like
Yeah,
20% of him. So
and
yeah.
that's 15
Well,
teams, and this
total Henry, I have 20%. And then as you can see, all combinations, we highlighted Henry. So with Henry stacks in the
yeah.
15 out of 74 completed teams.
So
Yeah.
but now this is where we see like
Mm-hmm.
you can see what other players there and
So these
highlight.
are the combination of running backs I have hit hard with Derrick
Yeah,
Henry. Really
and
Najee being the biggest.
yeah, but then go to like receiver real quick,
Yeah. Whoa,
because
Robin Wilson.
but this is the good thing to look at because it's like how are we balancing these teams out? You don't. Yeah, I mean Roman Wilson. You next time you draft Derrick Henry, you probably are not having Roman Wilson on that
Maybe
team.
pump the brakes there. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
and same with like Calvin Ridley. Like you can still have Tennessee, but maybe do a Hopkins team.
Yeah. Yeah.
That type of thing. So that is to me the biggest benefit of this portion of it. Obviously, the draft side of it when you can see it as you go, but kind of as you plan ahead and
Yeah.
be like, yeah, I need to if I'm getting Henry or getting player X, these three players just aren't in my pool this draft.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. And like you said, I think the other great point is just utilizing looking through and saying, okay, I have my 15 completed Henry teams. What am I doing the most?
Mm-hmm.
And probably in August I'll be catching up. But actually, I didn't realize I did so much of they because Henry is in the third round, I guess that's not considered an anchor,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's an anchor to me, but I am hitting receivers hard with Henry. I actually thought, I didn't realize that but then it looks like I'm either doing double anchor or zero RB. So maybe, I just want to do more hero RB type stuff too. So, those are things to consider. Or, what quarterbacks am I getting with Derrick Henry? As you can see, my top quarterbacks are Dak, Stroud, Herbert. This was obviously a very late quarterback build of Herbert, Rodgers, Mayfield, because it's showing the first of each position. Cousins is another late one. Hurts, maybe it's like, oh, well, I want to get some more elite quarterbacks with Derrick Henry. Like, I mean, Lamar is obviously on his own team, and decide if you like that or not. But, A-Rich or Mahomes or Allen, that kind of stuff. I do have a Mahomes here. So yeah, I definitely like my Dak Henry builds. Nothing wrong with that. Those are two of my favorite, drafted players. So as you can see, Dak and 40%, Cousins and 40% of my Derrick Henry build. So yeah, I love all of Best Ball Overlays features, obviously the extension of making decisions during a live draft. I love that you can build your own rankings. I think I'm really going to like that as the training camp wears on and we are going to be more fluid in Battle Royale season. But this whole teams function and exposures and combinations is my favorite, because this is what I know I did the worst last year. So any other thoughts on this, Steve, before I pull over Underdog to show how it presents itself with the overlay?
Nope.
Okay, let me pull over drafts. You can continue to stare at my Derrick Henry exposure while I pull over a completed drafts. Oh, there we go. All right, so let me pull over Underdog, and we can jump on a couple of my drafts to see, how you see the correlation. So you can look at my Dalmatian that I was able to do. I did one of the Dalmatian, and so as you can see,
might want to zoom it in some.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
Okay, you see that? Yeah. So as you can see for the Dalmatian, I did a 3-6-7-2, and I did Brock Purdy and Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. Let me back it up just a little so I can scroll a little bit more. And so when you're in a draft, your first quarterback is highlighted green, both for your bringbacks and your stacks. Your second is yellow and your third is red. And it's parentheses if it's stacked with your quarterback. It's underlined if it's a bring back in the playoffs with your player. And as you can see, playoff correlations, it is showing whether you're, got players on the board or players in you're reviewing it and need to see the underline. Again, the underline is to bring back, the parentheses is a stack, but also what I love is you can hover over it. You can see the team total. So as you can see, we know that 49ers have a GOAT playoff schedule. All green team totals of or game totals of 47, 49, and 49.5. If there's a dome game, it'll show a dome, especially, as you can see the Colts there, it's got like a little dome. So you can see dome, you can see totals, you can see bringbacks, you can see your stacks. So as you can see, I didn't in the smaller field, or excuse me, the timebacks tournaments, or especially the smaller field tournaments, I don't force a lot of bringbacks. I really just focus on team level correlation. So as you can see here with Purdy, I have Deebo Samuel. You got the green parentheses. And then I have George Kittle. And then you can see Tyler Conklin, my third. So then I got with Justin Herbert, I believe I got Ladd McConkey. Or no, I got Joshua Palmer. So then you got the parentheses there. And then I don't believe I got Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I stacked Aaron Rodgers with my top receiver. And then I also got Tyler Conklin. So I got all three of my quarterbacks very correlated, but I really didn't force, as you can see. I think there's a couple week 15 correlations, but go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. You didn't even maybe realize it at the time, but this just shows. But you didn't have this tool at the time. Also, but like Kyron Williams, no week 17 correlation, but he's correlated for both week 15 and
15,
16
16. Yep.
with
Good.
the San Francisco and Jets, and same with Robinson later.
And then you got
David
Montgomery.
Montgomery
Yeah.
is the bring back for week 17. So,
Right.
some of that stuff is out there. And even though this is not a stacked with the quarterback, and we don't necessarily see that, you have James Conner and Kyron Williams both in the same game week 17. So there you did have a lot of correlation there. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
that part doesn't show on this, of course, but
Right. Right. Because those are like skinny mini
yeah.
stacks. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I did still get some correlation in very important weeks of week 15, 16 too. And then, the week 17 bring back to David Montgomery. So still got some there. Let's look at though BBM. And we'll just look at one that we did. Let's look at a recent sibling showdown. See if we got many. I think our last sibling showdown I looked at, we didn't have a ton of bringbacks. I think this one we did with the Hertz, but anyways, yeah. So anyways, this is another sibling showdown we did 3-5-8-3 with Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Drake May. So scrolling through, as you can see, stacked, Barkley and Hertz. Let's keep going here. And then you can see a bring back to week 16 and 17 with Shakir, a stack with Corley, a stack with Javon Baker, a bring back with Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson, and then a stack with Goddard. So yeah, obviously I stacked all my receivers, my quarterbacks, and then there were still, bring back Rico Dow and the running backs, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's fun to go back and look at whether you're going all the way back to upload your big board, or you want to look at your higher stake stuff, your small field stuff, your BBM stuff. You can just jump in and you can see it after, but this is what you're going to see live. And it's of course important as you're going through the different positions to see the, obviously the week 15, 16, 17 stuff. It's your senior percentages. Obviously these were guys late in the draft, so I don't have much percentage to, guys like Estime and Rondell Moore and stuff like that. But you'll see the percentage exposures you're trying to make decisions. You'll see if they're correlated to your quarterback, if they're a bring back to your quarterback, and that's key. And then, of course, as you're reviewing your team, it helps to see, or as you're looking at your team live and seeing what you want to do, whether it's a slow or fast draft, it really helps. And that's what the whole overlay function does. Any other final thoughts on the overlay function, Steve?
No. And like I said, this is stuff both fast and slow, but definitely for fast drafts, it's really key to just quickly see those things and also just the percentages,
We in our recent BBM, I didn't realize, let me just pull that up. Haven't labeled it yet, but I will. So that way, if we need to split $1.5 million, we can. Hopefully we will. But I didn't realize that I only have 3% Caleb Williams. Knicks is late, 3% Knicks. But there's a couple other guys. I didn't realize I was so low on ETN, 4%. There was another couple. I didn't realize I thought I for sure had 10+% of Evans. And again, I look at this stuff. I thought for sure I was with the field on DJ Moore. Those are things that it's like I look at, but it doesn't stick with you. Whereas when you're in the draft, you're like, wait a second, I only have 7% DJ or Evans. I only have 5%. DJ Moore. That helped us make decisions live. 8% Shakir.
Yeah, we did Shakir over like
Shaheed because I had more Shaheed.
You had like 15% Shaheed. So.
Yeah, it's a decision point. And then the tight ends, 5%. Because I talked about, I either like getting those like elite tight ends, especially the like Kincaid through Kittle and Pitts range, or I like hammering late round tight ends. So I don't have a lot of exposure to the mid round tight ends, which is why I only have 5% Freiermuth. We did that. And of course I had the KC bring back. And then Noah Fant was a week 17 bring back to Chicago. And he's one I wrote up in my late round tight end article. Check it out free on fanspeak.com. But I have not been able to get a lot to him. So this was a perfect time to be like, we're getting him, and we actually got him. We were like, wait a second, his ADP is coming up. We saw the correlation and we queued him up and made sure we got him. And that's the kind of stuff that the extension is going to allow you to do. I mean, I definitely made, more, I guess I'd just call them educated decisions live in a draft.
Yeah.
And obviously a stream draft, you're trying to multitask a lot of things, but even if I'm going to rip, what was the fast one open, the pug or
The
something?
pug, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to rip probably 3 fast pugs tonight and tomorrow, and I'm going to have this, and it's going to help me make my decisions a lot easier. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of all the different features of Best Ball Overlay. Of course, again, you have the extension we just showed. You have building your own rankings, which is going to be so important as training camp starts. And you have the teams and the combinations. And that is, I think, Steve and I's favorite part. So this has been awesome. Steve, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No. Yeah, I recommend everyone to check it out and, use the code, get $10 off, and, check it out at least for a couple months. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to do
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale, I think it's going to be big for that as well.
Well, and if you're in, I mean, you play, I really am a football only girl. I'll dabble.
But yeah, it'll be for other sports also.
It'll be for other sports. So if you're into the baseball best ball, the NBA best ball, the golf best ball, it covers you for all sports and best ball, and then it covers you for the dailies. So you can do the dailies. So, we're going to have content this fall in season using Best Ball Overlay for Battle Royale. And now we can create the rankings, we can see our exposures, we can, so that's going to be great. So again, it's not just for this best ball season, it's for every best ball season that you're playing. And it's for the dailies too, which is so key. So like Steve said, it's $10 off per month. So it gets you down to just $20 a month. That's less than the cost of a BBM using code Fanspeak. So this has been fun. Check out bestballoverlay.com. Be sure to check out all our free content on Fanspeak, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.